I woke up screaming, but no sound came out. My mouth was open, my chest was burning, and my hands were grabbing at the sheets like a man falling off a cliff. I sat up fast, too fast. The room spun. Then it stopped spinning, and I saw the ceiling. I knew that ceiling. White paint. A small crack near the corner shaped like a river. The little water stain from when the pipe leaked 2 winters ago. I had stared at that crack 1,000 times, but that was impossible. Because I sold this apartment. Because I lost this apartment. Because I died. Yes, I died. I remember it. I remember every second of it. In my last life, I was 41 years old. I had nothing. No money, no company, no name. I was sitting alone on a cold bench outside a hospital, coughing blood into a tissue, and the last thing I thought before my heart stopped was her face, Claire's face, smiling at me across a table while her lawyer pushed divorce papers into my hands. "Sign here, Ethan," she had said that day. So sweet, so calm, like she was asking me to pass the salt. Let's not make this ugly. It was already ugly. She had taken everything, my savings, my startup, my pride, and she did it with that same soft smile she used when she told me she loved me. I died 1 year after that smile, broke, forgotten, alone. So how was I looking at my old ceiling? I turned my head, slowly. My neck felt stiff, like I hadn't moved in years. And then I saw her. Claire. She was lying right next to me, asleep, her dark hair spread across the pillow, her face soft and peaceful in the grey morning light, one hand tucked under her cheek. She looked young, younger than the last time I saw her. The little lines around her eyes were gone. My whole body went cold. This was before. This was years before the divorce. This was back when I still thought she was the best thing that ever happened to me. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." My hands were shaking. I looked at them. They were younger too. No grey hairs on my wrist. No bruise on my knuckle from the night I punched a wall after she left. Just smooth skin and a wedding ring. That ring. I stared at it like it was a snake. Claire shifted in her sleep. Her lips moved. "Ethan," she mumbled. My name, in her sleep. So gentle, and for one stupid second, my heart melted. That's the part that scares me. After everything she did, after she watched me die slowly and never even blinked, a piece of me still wanted to pull her close and believe none of it had happened. That's how deep I had loved her. That's how deep she had buried the knife. I made myself breathe. In, out. I looked at the clock on the nightstand. The date glowed in green numbers. I read it 3 times. My mouth went dry. If this date was real, then the divorce was exactly 1 year away. 1 year before she would sit across from me and smile and take it all. 1 year before the worst day of my life. She didn't know I had already lived it. She didn't know I remembered the affair she hadn't started yet, the accounts she hadn't drained yet, the man she hadn't met yet. To her, this was just a normal Tuesday. To me, it was a second chance soaked in blood. I slid out of bed without waking her. My feet hit the cold floor. I walked to the bathroom, gripped the sink, and looked at my own face in the mirror. It was me, younger, tired, but me. I touched my cheek just to be sure. The man in the glass touched his too. "You're back," I said softly. "You're really back." And then something happened that I did not expect. I smiled. Not a happy smile, a cold one. A smile I had never worn before in my whole life. The kind of smile she used to wear. In my last life, I waited. I trusted. I gave and gave until there was nothing left of me, and then she threw the empty shell away. I let her hold the knife the entire time. Not this time. This time, I knew every move before she made it, every lie before she told it, every step of the trap she would slowly build around me. And while she was busy building it, slow and patient, sure she had all the time in the world, I was going to file first. I heard the bed creak in the other room. Her voice came, soft and sleepy, and full of love she didn't mean. "Babe, come back to bed. It's early." I looked at my reflection one more time. "Coming, love," I called back. My voice didn't shake, not even a little. That was the first thing that scared me about the new me. I made her coffee that morning the way I always did. 2 sugars, a little milk. I set it down in front of her, like a loving husband. But my hands knew something my heart was still learning. "You're up early," Claire said, wrapping both hands around the mug. She smiled at me over the rim. "You okay?" "Bad dream," I said. It wasn't a lie. I just didn't tell her the dream was my whole life. "Aw." She reached out and squeezed my hand. Her fingers were warm, soft, the same fingers that would one day sign me out of my own company. "You work too hard. You need a break." "Maybe," I said. I sat down across from her and watched her drink. I had sat across from this woman 10,000 mornings. I knew the way she tilted her head, the way she laughed, the way she lied. Last time, I never saw it. This time, it was the only thing I could see. Her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, and for half a second her thumb moved to tilt the screen away from me. Just a small thing. So small you'd miss it if you weren't looking. I was looking. "Who's that?" I asked. Calm, light. "Just Mum," she said, smiling, flipping the phone face down. "She's been calling about the family lunch thing." It wasn't her mum. I knew exactly who it was, because I had lived this morning before. I just hadn't understood it the first time. It was a number she would later save under a fake name. It was the beginning of everything. "Oh," I said. "Tell Patricia I said hi." "I will." She smiled again. God, she was good at it. She stood, came around the table, and kissed the top of my head. Her perfume wrapped around me. In my old life, that smell meant home. Now it made my stomach turn. "By the way," she said, super casual, pouring herself more coffee, "the girls want to do a weekend trip next month. Spa, wine, the whole thing. You don't mind, right?" There it was. The girls' trip. In my last life I had said, "Of course not, baby, have fun." I had even paid for it. I had driven her to the airport and waved. There were no girls. There was only Marcus. "Of course not," I said, exactly like before. "Have fun." She beamed. "You're the best husband ever, you know that?" "I try," I said. She believed she was so smart. She believed I was so blind. And the worst part is, last time, she was right. My phone rang. I looked down. The name on the screen made my whole body go still. Marcus Reed. I hadn't met him in person yet. In this timeline, he was still just a voice, a so-called investor a friend had introduced me to, a man with a big smile and bigger promises who said he believed in my company. He didn't believe in my company. He wanted it, and he wanted my wife. And in my last life, he got both. I answered, "Ethan." His voice boomed, warm and loud. "There's my favorite founder. How's the smartest man in tech this morning?" "Marcus," I said. "Good to hear from you." Claire's head turned the second she heard the name. "Just a little. Just enough." I saw it. "Listen," Marcus said. "I've been thinking about your company all week. But I want in, my friend. Big. I'm talking about taking this thing to the moon. You, me, partners. What do you say we get lunch and make some magic?" In my old life, this call was the happiest day of my year. A rich investor wanted me. I had felt so proud, so lucky. Now I knew the truth. Every dollar he offered was a hook. Every smile was a trap. He didn't want to lift me up. He wanted to get close enough to push me off. "Lunch sounds great," I said. "That's what I like to hear." Marcus laughed. "We're going to do incredible things together, Ethan. Trust me." "I trust you," I said. It was the biggest lie I had told all morning, and I told it without blinking. I hung up. Claire was watching me, sipping her coffee, eyes a little too bright. "Who was that?" she asked. Light, casual, same trick she'd used on her phone. "Some investor," I said. "Marcus something. Wants to put money in the company." "Really?" She set her cup down. "That's amazing, babe. You should meet him. Don't let it slip away." I almost laughed. She was pushing me toward him. She wanted me to bring the wolf into the house myself. She wanted me close to the man she would soon belong to, so the whole thing would look natural when it all came down. It was a good plan, a patient plan, a plan built over a whole year, slow and quiet, brick by brick, while I smiled and trusted and signed whatever she put in front of me. "Yeah," I said softly, "maybe I will." She thought she had a year to ruin me. She had no idea I had already counted every single day of it. I picked up my own phone and, while she watched me with those loving eyes, I opened a new note and typed one word where she couldn't see: first. I was going to do all of it first. The first thing I learned in my second life was this: revenge is not loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't break dishes. It doesn't beg. Revenge is quiet. Revenge is paperwork. Revenge is doing the boring, careful things that no one notices until it's too late. So the next morning, I drove to the one man I had wrongly thrown away the first time, Daniel Hayes, my co-founder. He was sitting in the back of our small office, glasses pushed up on his head, frowning at his laptop like it had insulted his mother. When he saw me walk in, he raised an eyebrow. "You look weird," he said. "Thanks. No, I mean it. You look like you've seen a ghost." You have no idea, I thought. In my last life, Claire slowly turned me against Daniel. Little comments. "He doesn't respect you. He's holding you back. He's jealous of you, Ethan." Drip by drip, until I pushed out the only person who never once lied to me. After that, I was alone, easy to break. Not this time. "Daniel," I said, sitting down across from him, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me." He closed the laptop. "Okay, do you trust me?" He blinked. "That's a strange question for 8 in the morning. Just answer it." He looked at me for a long moment. "Yeah," he said, "I trust you. We built this thing in a garage with 2 laptops and bad coffee. Of course I trust you." Something in my chest cracked a little. I had forgotten what it felt like to hear the truth. "Good," I said, "because I think someone's going to try to take the company from us, and I want us ready before they do." Daniel sat up straight. "Take it? Who?" "I can't prove it yet," I said carefully, "but I need us to do a few things. Quietly, I want to lock down the ownership, protect the code, make sure no one can buy their way into control without both of us agreeing, both signatures, always." Daniel studied me. He's a smart man. He knew I wasn't telling him everything. "You're scaring me a little," he said. "Good," I said. "Scared keeps us sharp." He nodded slowly. "Okay, I'm in. Whatever this is, I'm in." That was it. No drama, no begging, just a man who meant what he said. The first time around, I gave my trust to the people who would sell me. This time, I gave it to the one who wouldn't. We spent 3 hours on the paperwork, ownership, voting rights, a wall around our company so high that no smiling investor could climb it without us seeing. When I left, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 lifetimes. I felt safe. But the company was only half of it. That afternoon, I sat in a quiet office that smelled like coffee and old books, across from a woman named Grace Bennett. Grace was a divorce attorney, calm eyes, grey jacket, a yellow notepad in front of her, with not one single word written on it yet. "So," she said, "tell me why you're here, Mr. Cole." "My marriage is going to end," I said. "I want to be ready when it does." She tilted her head. "Going to end. Not ending now." "Not yet," I said, "but it will." She didn't laugh. She didn't tell me I was being dramatic. She just picked up her pen. "Okay," she said. "Then let me ask you the most important question, and I want you to really think about your answer. Go ahead." She looked right at me. "What do you want, Ethan?" I opened my mouth, then I closed it, because no one had ever asked me that. Not my wife, not my family, not the whole world. In 41 years of one life and the start of another, not a single person had ever sat me down and asked what I wanted. I had to look away for a second. My eyes were stinging, and I was not going to cry in front of a stranger. "I want to walk away whole," I said finally. "I want to keep what's mine. I want it to be over before she even knows the game has started." I paused. "And I don't want to become her to do it." Grace wrote that down. Then she looked up. "That last part is the one most people forget," she said quietly. "It's the one that actually matters." I almost smiled. Over the next 2 weeks, I started collecting. Not loudly, not angrily, just piece by piece. The hidden account she didn't know I knew about. The hotel receipt I remembered from my old life, sitting in a folder she hadn't created yet but would. The fake name in her phone. Every piece I found should have hurt. The first time, it had destroyed me. This time, each one just made me steadier, calmer, more sure, because for the first time in 2 whole lives, I wasn't waiting to be saved. I was saving myself. I filed first, a full year early, a whole year before she ever planned to slide those papers across a table at me, with that soft little smile. This time, the papers were waiting for her. I remember the morning I signed them in Grace's office. My hand was steady. I half expected to feel sad, to feel like I was killing something. but the thing I would have been mourning had been dead for a long time. I just hadn't known it the first time around. "You're sure?" Grace asked, watching me. "I'm sure," I said, and I signed. Claire was away on her girls' trip, the one with no girls, the one with Marcus. I knew exactly when her plane would land. I knew exactly when she'd walk through our door, glowing and tan, and full of stories about a spa that didn't exist. I left the envelope on the kitchen island, right in the middle, where she couldn't miss it. Then I sat on the couch, in the dark, and I waited. The door opened at 9:14 p.m. "Babe," she called, dragging her suitcase inside. "I'm home. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. The flight was—" She stopped. She saw the envelope. I watched her from the couch. She didn't see me yet. She just stood there, staring at the thick white envelope sitting on the island, with her name printed on the front. "Ethan," she said, slower now. "What's this?" "Open it," I said. She jumped. She hadn't known I was there. "You scared me," she laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. She picked up the envelope, turned it over. Her thumb slid under the flap. She pulled out the papers. I watched her eyes move across the top line. I watched the exact second she understood. Her face did something I had waited 2 lifetimes to see. The color drained out of it. Her tan didn't matter anymore. She went pale and gray, like someone had pulled a plug somewhere inside her. "Divorce," she whispered. "Divorce," I agreed. "This is—" She laughed again, but it came out broken. "This is a joke, right? Ethan, babe, what is this?" "It's exactly what it looks like. But—" She set the papers down like they were burning her. "But why? We're happy. We're fine. Where is this even coming from? You didn't say anything. You didn't— We don't fight. We never fight. No," I said quietly. "We never fight. You smile, and I believe you. That's not the same as happy." She stared at me, and I saw it. The first crack, the first flash of real panic. Because this was her move. Filing first was her plan. And somehow, impossibly, I had done it to her instead. "Who told you something?" she said. Her voice changed, sharper now. "Did someone say something to you? Because whatever you heard, it's not Marcus," I said. The room went silent. She froze, completely, like a deer that just heard the gun. "What?" she breathed. "The spa with no spa," I said. "The girls with no girls. The number in your phone saved under a fake name." I stood up. "Marcus Reed, the investor who believes in my company. The man you've been meeting for months." "That's insane," she said quickly. "That's— Ethan, you're imagining things. I would never." I set a folder on the island next to the papers. She looked at it. She didn't touch it. "Hotel receipts," I said. "The account you opened that you thought I didn't know about. The messages." I tapped the folder once. "I have all of it." That was a small lie. I didn't have all of it yet in this life. But I had lived it once. I knew exactly where every piece was hidden, because I had found them all the first time, too late. This time I found them early. She didn't know that. She just saw a husband who somehow knew everything. Every secret, every lie. Things she had barely even started doing. "How?" she whispered. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I can explain." Just, "How do you know all this?" And that, right there, was the question that would haunt her. Because she could not figure it out. There was no way for me to know what I knew. The affair was new. The plan was just beginning. The trap was barely built. And yet here I was, holding the whole thing in my hand, like I'd read the ending of a book she hadn't finished writing. "It doesn't matter how," I said. "It only matters that I do." Tears filled her eyes. Real ones, this time, or maybe just scared ones. With Claire it was always hard to tell. "Ethan, please," she said, and her voice broke. "Whatever you think you know, we can fix it. We can fix anything. Just, don't do this. Don't throw us away." I looked at her for a long moment, and I thought about a cold bench outside a hospital, and blood in a tissue, and a soft smile pushing papers across a table while I died inside. "You already threw us away," I said. "You just don't know it yet." I picked up my coat. "Sign the papers, Claire." And I walked out, leaving her standing alone in the kitchen, holding the end of her own plan in her shaking hands. Here's the thing I learned about karma in my second life. It doesn't need your help. It just needs you to stop standing in front of it. The first time, I had spent years protecting Claire, covering her, making excuses, catching her before she fell. So she never fell. This time, I just stepped aside, and the whole thing came down on its own. It started with Marcus. 3 days after I filed, my phone rang. It was him. That big warm voice, but thinner now, worried. "Ethan! My man! Listen, there's been a misunderstanding, I think." He laughed, but it was a weak laugh. "I've been trying to reach you about the investment, about coming on board. You haven't returned my calls." "The company's not taking outside money right now," I said. Silence. "What do you mean?" he said. "We talked about this. We had a deal. We had a conversation," I said. "Daniel and I locked the company down last month, both signatures needed for anything, and Daniel says no." I paused. "So it's no." I could almost hear him doing the math on the other end. The company he wanted was suddenly a wall, and the woman he'd been promising the world to, she had nothing to offer him now either. Because here was the part Claire never understood. Marcus never wanted her. He wanted what she said she could give him. Access to me, influence over my company, a soft way in. She had whispered to him that she'd have half of everything soon, and he had smiled and played along. But there was no half of everything anymore. I had filed first. The company was sealed. Claire was just a woman in the middle of a divorce, with no money and no leverage. To Marcus, that made her worthless. "Is this about Claire?" he said carefully. "No," I said. "This was never about Claire." And I hung up. By the next week, Marcus was gone. Vanished. He stopped answering her calls the way he'd stopped answering mine. Except for her, it was permanent. The man who had promised her a brand new life disappeared the second that life stopped being profitable. In my last life, I had watched Claire and Marcus build something on the ruins of me. They had laughed. They had won. This time, the moment she had nothing to offer, he dropped her like a bad stock. I didn't lift a finger. I just stopped catching her. Then came the money. Claire had a secret account. She'd been quietly moving small amounts into it for her future. But that future was built on a guess. The guess that she'd walk away from our marriage with half my company and a fat settlement. She'd been spending against money she didn't have yet, borrowing on a promise, living big on a win she was sure was coming. But the win wasn't coming. When my lawyer laid out the truth, that the company was protected, that the prenup I'd quietly updated months ago held, that there was no fortune to split, her little house of cards folded. The account she'd been so proud of couldn't cover what she'd already spent. She called me, screaming, the first time her card got declined. "What did you do?" she shouted. "You took everything. You planned this. Nobody just knows these things, Ethan. Nobody. How did you?" There it was again, the question that wouldn't let her sleep. "How did you know?" "I didn't take anything that was yours," I said calmly. "I just protected what was mine. There's a difference. You used to know that." She hung up on me. I didn't call back, and then came Patricia, Claire's mother, a proud woman who had never liked that her daughter married a garage boy with a laptop. She'd spent years looking down on me. Sure, her perfect daughter could have done better, but Patricia loved one thing more than her pride: comfort, the nice dinners, the gifts, the picture of a rich son-in-law she could brag about to her friends. When that picture disappeared, she didn't comfort her daughter. She blamed her. I heard about it later, from a mutual friend, how Patricia had stood in Claire's apartment and said the cruelest thing a mother can say. "You had everything," she'd said. "A good man, a good life, and you threw it away chasing something shiny. How stupid can one person be?" Her own mother. Turning the knife. A year ago, a lifetime ago, I would have driven over there. I would have defended Claire. I would have told Patricia to leave her daughter alone. This time, I just heard the story, set my coffee down, and went back to work. Because while her world cracked, mine was finally being built. The same week Claire's life came apart, Daniel walked into my office, grinning so hard I thought his face would split. "We got it," he said. "Got what?" "The deal. The big one. They signed." He threw a folder on my desk. "Ethan, this is the one. This changes everything." I opened the folder, and I almost laughed. Because in my last life, this exact deal had happened too, 1 year later, after the divorce, after Claire and Marcus had taken the company. They had stood on a stage and taken the credit for my work, for my late nights, for the thing Daniel and I built in a garage. This time, it was ours, just ours. The way it always should have been. I didn't celebrate loudly. I didn't post about it. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, holding the folder, and let myself feel it. The life she tried to steal was growing, and the life she chose instead was falling down around her, beam by beam, all on its own. I never had to push. I only had to stop holding it up. She came to my door on a Thursday night. It was raining. Of course it was raining. The first time the universe ever gave me a movie moment, and it gave it to me on the worst possible night to feel anything. I heard the knock, soft, 3 times. I knew it was her before I opened it. I don't know how. Maybe after 2 lifetimes with someone, you just know the sound of their hand. I opened the door, and there she was, Claire. But not the Claire who smiled across tables. Not the Claire with the secret phone and the fake spa trip. This Claire was smaller. Her hair was wet and stuck to her face. Her eyes were red and swollen. She had no makeup, no armor, nothing. She looked like a woman who had finally run out of moves. "Can I come in?" she whispered. Every smart part of me said no. I stepped back and let her in anyway. She stood in my hallway, dripping on the floor, hugging herself. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. Then she broke. "I'm sorry," she said, and the tears came fast. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I made a terrible, stupid mistake, and I lost everything, and I deserve it. I know I deserve it, but I just..." She pressed a hand to her mouth. "I needed to see you. I needed to tell you, I'm sorry." "Okay," I said quietly. "That's it, okay?" She laughed through the tears. "I know it's not enough. I know. But Ethan..." She stepped closer. "It was a mistake. Marcus was a mistake. I was confused, and I was selfish, and I threw away the only person who ever really loved me. And I see that now. I see it. Now," I said. "You see it now." "Yes." She nodded fast, hopeful, grabbing onto that one word. "Yes, now. And I know I have no right to ask, but can we start over, please? Just forget all of it. Tear up the papers. We can go back to how it was. We were good, Ethan. We had something real. Didn't we? Didn't we have something real? And here is the part I'm ashamed of. For 1 second, one single, stupid second, I wanted to say yes, because the man who loved her was still in here somewhere. The man who made her coffee with 2 sugars. The man who waved at the airport. The man who held her when she cried about her cruel mother and meant every soft word. That man heard, "Start over," and his whole broken heart leaned toward her, like a plant toward the sun. She saw it. She's smart. She saw the second I softened, and she pressed. "I know you still love me," she said softly, stepping closer, reaching for my hand. "I can see it. You wouldn't have let me in if you didn't. We can fix this, baby. We can fix anything. Just give me one more chance." Her fingers touched mine, and I remembered the bench, the cold bench outside the hospital, the blood in the tissue, the way my heart had given out alone, at 41, with nothing and no one, while somewhere across the city she was laughing at a party in a dress I had paid for. I remembered the soft smile across the table. "Sign here, Ethan. Let's not make this ugly." I gently took my hand back. "Claire," I said, "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to listen, really listen." She went still. "I already know how this ends," I said. "What?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" "I know exactly what happens if I say yes." I kept my voice calm, soft, even. "I take you back. You're sweet for a while, grateful, loving, and slowly, month by month, the old Claire comes back. The phone tilts away again. There's another Marcus, another spa with no spa. And one day, you sit across a table from me, and you smile, and you take everything I have left." I paused. "I've seen that ending. I'm not going back for it." "That's not..." Her eyes filled again. "That's not fair. You don't know that. People change. I've changed. Maybe," I said, "but not for me. And not because you love me. You're here because you have nothing left. If Marcus had stayed, if the money had been there, you would never have knocked on this door." She opened her mouth, then she closed it, because she knew it was true. We both did. The silence stretched. The rain kept falling outside. "So that's it," she said finally. Her voice was hollow now. "Empty. After everything, after all those years, you won't even try." I looked at her, really looked at her, one last time, The woman I had loved with my whole life. The woman who had killed me slowly and never even noticed. I tried, I said quietly. You just weren't there for it. I opened the door. She stood there a moment longer, looking at me like she was waiting for me to change my mind, like she'd waited her whole life for the world to bend back into the shape she wanted. It didn't bend. Not this time. She walked out into the rain, and I closed the door. Gently, no slam, no anger, just a soft click. I leaned my back against it and slid down to the floor and sat there in the dark for a long, long time. It didn't feel like winning. It just felt like finally, setting down something heavy I'd been carrying for 2 whole lifetimes. That was the kindest thing I had left to give her, the truth. And then the door closed between us 1 year later. It's funny, 1 year, the exact amount of time she thought she needed to destroy me the first time around. I gave that same year to myself instead, and look what grew. The company is thriving. The deal Daniel threw on my desk turned into 3 more. We moved out of the little office that smelled like old coffee and into a real one, with windows and light and a name on the door that nobody can take from us. Both signatures, always. Daniel walked past my desk this morning, looked at me, and stopped. You look weird, he said. You always say that. No, he said, grinning. This time, you look weird in a good way. You look like a man who actually sleeps. I laughed. I do, actually. First time since I've known you. He knocked twice on my desk and walked off. Don't ruin it. I won't. I see Grace sometimes now. Not as my lawyer, that part's long over. Just as Grace. We get coffee. We take slow walks where neither of us is in a hurry to be anywhere. It isn't a fairy tale. There are no fireworks, no sweeping music, no airport scenes. It's quieter than that, and better. Last week she asked me a question, the same one she asked me in that office, what feels like 100 years ago. What do you want, Ethan? The first time I had to look away. I didn't have an answer. This time I looked right at her and said, this, exactly this. She smiled. She didn't write it down. She just took my hand. I keep one thing in the top drawer of my desk, my old wedding ring. I almost threw it away a dozen times, in the trash, in the river, off a bridge, like in the movies, but I never did. I keep it for a reason, not because I miss her, not because I still love her. I keep it because every now and then, on a hard day, I open that drawer and I look at it, and I remember. I remember a cold bench outside a hospital. I remember blood in a tissue. I remember a soft smile across a table, sliding papers toward a dying man, and I remember the version of me who let it happen. The one who gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left, and called it love. I keep the ring so I never become him again. I hear about Claire sometimes. The world is small, and people talk. She's starting over, alone. The money's gone. Marcus is long gone. Her mother barely speaks to her. She moved into a small place across town and got a regular job, and, from what I hear, she's quiet now. Smaller. The shine is gone. People expect me to feel something when they tell me this. They lean in, waiting. Anger, maybe. Or joy. The sweet taste of a win. But I don't feel either one. I just feel still. Because here's the truth nobody tells you about revenge. When you finally get it, it doesn't taste like anything. The best thing I ever did wasn't destroying her. It was the moment I closed that door, sat down on the floor, and let go of the weight I'd been carrying for 2 whole lifetimes. She didn't lose because I beat her. She lost because she threw away the one thing that was actually real, and chased something shiny, and the shiny thing was never going to stay. I didn't take her life from her. She handed it to me. Both times. The first time, I just didn't know I was allowed to keep it. This time, I did. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that morning, waking up screaming with no sound coming out, seeing that crack in the ceiling shaped like a river, looking over and seeing her asleep beside me, young and peaceful, with the whole betrayal still ahead of us. I was given something almost nobody gets. A second chance. A do-over. A blank year. I could have used it for revenge. I could have spent it making her suffer, hurting her the way she hurt me, dragging her down into the mud. But I didn't. I used it to save myself. And in the end, that turned out to be the best revenge there is. I lived my worst day twice, so I would never, ever have to live it a third time. I close the drawer, the ring goes dark inside it, and I get back to my life, the one she threw away. the one I finally get to keep. The end.